Do you get lower back pain when bending to pick something up off the floor, bending to load the dishwasher, or leaning over the sink to brush your teeth? If so, this video is for you. Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Candy, and in this video, I'll share some simple but effective tips to help you bend more comfortably. And often they work right away. So let's get started. Often people with lower back pain are told that they shouldn't bend or that bending is bad for their back. And sometimes they're even told this by well-meaning doctors. But that's just not true. Your lower back was designed to bend. However, certain ways of bending can cause pain. For example, if you have an acute herniated disc and you excessively round out your lower back when bending, that can put pressure on the disc and even cause it to pinch some nerves in your lower back. On the flip side, if you bend with too much arch in your lower back, that causes excessive muscle activation in your lower back muscles. It also jams the joints in your lower back together, both of which can cause some pain. And that's especially true if you're in a sustained mid-range bending position, such as bending over the sink to brush your teeth. When you're in a mid-range bend like this, one vertebrae starts to slip forward on the other, and you have to use your lower back muscles to kind of pull that vertebrae back into place. And if you're there for a prolonged period of time, that can start to become painful. So while bending is good, it's probably a good idea to avoid sustained mid-range bends like this. When you're completely vertical like this, your spine is stacked up like a tower of blocks, and it requires minimal muscle activation. When you bend completely forward like this, gravity is actually unloading or distracting your lower back, and it's also not so uncomfortable. So it's often that mid-range bend, both on the way down as well as coming back up, where you may feel like you get a catch and have to use your hands to straighten back up. So here's how you bend more comfortably. Instead of bending and straightening at your lower back using your lower back muscles, you want to do what's called a hip hinge. This is where you find a neutral position of your lower back, not excessively rounded, not excessively arched, but in a mid-range position, and then you want to maintain that position throughout the bend. Then think about hinging at your hips, pushing your buttock back, allowing your knees to bend as needed, but keeping your spine in relatively the same position, bending down like that. Then to stand back up, rather than using your back extensor muscles to stand back up, you just squeeze your bottom muscles and drive your hips underneath of you. So hips go backwards like that, keeping the spine in a neutral position, and then squeeze your buttocks, hips go forward underneath of you. You can practice that using a dowel rod or a broomstick on your back. Find a neutral position where you're not excessively arched, you're not excessively rounded, but the stick sits fairly flat on your back. And just practice that hips back position like that. You don't want excessive gap. You also don't want the stick to come up off your bottom, and then drive the hips back forwards. Hips back like that, hinging at the hips. Hips forward by squeezing your glutes and driving your hips back underneath of you. Hips back, hips forwards. And often using that hip hinging technique will relieve pain with bending almost immediately. Now you may wonder, what about lifting? Well, lifting is basically the same technique, you're just adding weight. Many people have heard the phrase, lift with your legs, not with your back, and that is true, but many people misconstrue that to mean that you shouldn't bend your back at all when you're lifting, and that you should try to keep your spine perfectly vertical. But that's not the way that your spine was designed to work. You want to keep your spine in a neutral position, much like doing a hip hinge, but as your hips go backwards, your spine needs to go forwards a little bit in order to keep your center of gravity balanced over your feet. So get as close as possible to the object that you're lifting, so that's between your legs or close to it as possible. Then drive your hips backwards, allowing the knees to bend. Grab onto the object, whether it's with a high handle like this or a bar when doing a deadlift, or whether you're lifting completely underneath the object, and then keep it close to your center of gravity as you come up. So hips go back, hips forwards, and the object moves up as close to your body as possible, but you're using very little back muscles. You're not picking it up like that using back extension. So that's one way to lift comfortably without your lower back hurting. Now, what about other exercises to strengthen your back? Well, to learn more ways to strengthen your spine, check out this video over here. But before you go, if you found this one helpful, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to our channel so you can get notified of our future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.